We're so excited that you're all here. We're really honored to be able to share some exciting news and just have a conversation with all of you, just the Cinesamples community, and answer questions that you have about Musio, about Cinesamples, and just talk. There's a lot of really exciting things that we've been doing the past year or so under the wraps, and now we're wanting to bring the community in and let you guys in on just so much that we're excited for, and get your feedback and get connected. So welcome. We're so happy, and yeah, MP, I'm going to toss the baton over to you to just give us a brief overview of just what's been going on with Musio and all that comes with that.
Sure, yeah. Well, so we started this company 14 years ago. And so today we kind of consider it a 14-year-old startup, because about a year ago, we kind of decided to really transform and change our company. We still are developing lots of products for Kontakt, and we continue to support Kontakt. And by the way, we love Kontakt because it's how we built our business on Kontakt. But we saw an opportunity to bring these really expensive libraries to people that just can't afford them. And so that's why we created Musio, which is a simpler way of getting instruments delivered directly to your DAW. So we've had, we just launched that a few days ago, and the response has been pretty positive. And so we thought, actually, just 3 days, hey, let's do a live stream. So we quickly set this thing up, and we're here to answer any questions you have. So Madison is going to help us stay on track and read your questions. And so go for it.
Yeah, great. Well, it looks like we already have a few great questions trickling in. And those of you that are viewing now, as you know, feel free to drop your questions, anything that comes to mind below, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. But yeah, to get started, there's a really great general question that I want to pitch to the team, which is, as far as the sample library industry goes, what we foresee as the next breakthrough and how that's going to continue to evolve as technology evolves, as DAWs and plugins evolve. So yeah, I would love to hear from any of you here that want to touch on that, and just with that. Yeah, Shane, go for it.
I have a response.
Real quick, sorry, before, if you talk for the first time, just mention who you are and what your general kind of job is.
Hey, I'm Shane Roberts. I lead the production team here at Cinesamples and Musio, so I deal with all of our content creation. But that's a great question, and I think that question is well suited for right now, because I don't know if there's going to be much of a technology advance as much as there is a cultural advance. So right now, what we're seeing is, we all have digital access to stuff, but it's tough for people to have financial access to a lot of stuff. And some of the point behind Musio and a lot of different services that we're seeing is, it's not just for the uber rich. It's not just for the specific professional. It's not just for the expert anymore. We're allowing people access to a set of instruments and a set of experiences and a set of tools that they never really had before. So that's where I see the future of music going, stuff just getting into more people's hands. And that's a very positive thing, because the more people that have these tools and the more people that can create beautiful things and really authentic things, the better. We all benefit from it. We get better. We get a better world. We get a better life. We get a more beautiful place to live. We have better content for our movies and our TV shows and all the content that we consume. So Cinesamples, from our end, as we create products, we're just trying to participate in that movement as much as we can. We realize that we have very high-end libraries, some of them capping out at $700. And if I'm a composer, very, very few of my peers can afford a $700 percussion instrument. We want to be able to bring that to people who have beautiful ideas and have incredible talent, but may not be able to reach that far with their wallet. So that's where I see the future of production going. That's where I see the future of the industry going. Just people getting down and doing the real work to give access to the most people.
Awesome. Great. Thanks for that, Shane. We have an amazing question from Christian A, who currently owns 80% of the music sample libraries, Cinesamples, and is wondering, is Musio like East West Composer Cloud, or is it different? And for those that do have Cinesamples products already, how should they navigate having some products already downloaded, purchased, and through Kontakt, and then also using the products that are in Musio? What does that look like? And I'd love to toss that question to Sam.
Sure. Hi, I'm Sam. I'm the COO of Cinesamples. It's a great question, Maddie. What we want to do is make sure that people have, an understanding of what Musio actually is versus what Kontakt is. And workflows are different for when you want to work in Kontakt versus when you want to work with Musio. Musio is a simple search load play. We want to be able to get you the content, bits of the content, as quickly and effectively as possible. Whereas Kontakt is a more full-fledged, multiple microphone positions, a GUI interface, a lot of setup, a lot of tweaking that you can do to make it just right for yourself. And when you own the Kontakt version, you're allowed to do all that. You're able to get through all of that process. And when you have the Musio version of it, it's a little bit more easily accessible. And so I think to get to Maddie's point here, when you own all of the Cinesamples products in Kontakt, you're going to have a different workflow than how you would approach it in Musio. So having a Musio add-on would allow someone who maybe has a huge setup at home and maybe wants to go onto the road, and these are quick little things you could download. They should work fairly seamlessly between a Kontakt version and a Musio version in terms of how you write with it and the sonics of it. It is and should be treated as a different product. Yeah, Mike.
Oh yeah, well, I was going to say one of the coolest things about Musio that I think is unique, because there's other subscription services out there, right? This one's interesting because I can share my session file with somebody and they can open it up, and everything that I've composed in that session file downloads automatically on their end, and they can hear it exactly how I hear it on my end. So I know for me as a composer, I collaborate with a lot of other composers and we share sketches back and forth. And so that's something I think is pretty unique.
And it's a great workflow. And that's one of the things that we wanted to provide as an option to Kontakt. This is not a Kontakt replacement. We never want to be seen as a Kontakt replacement. This is an addition to. This is something, whether or not you're starting or you've been with us for a long time, this should help supplement your Kontakt library. And that's one of the desires that we saw and wanted to see. This also, one of the things, and maybe this is another follow-up question, Maddie, but one of the things that is also different about Musio is it allows us to develop very quickly, and it allows us to do products that may not be worth going through an entire Kontakt ecosystem. It's very expensive to develop a library in Kontakt, and we need to make sure that certain libraries do perform to be able to put them into Kontakt, just because of the nature of how much money we have to put behind it. And one of the driving forces here at Cinesamples is we've wanted to be able to get people the ability to use all of our products, whether or not you own Kontakt or not. So we've had a huge push to move ourselves into the Kontakt player ecosystem. And so all of our products coming up very shortly will be Kontakt player, which means you will never have to own Kontakt to be able to use our products, which is a huge investment from this team. And, but that also gave us a moment where we could use Musio as a chance to do some fun, smaller instruments that wouldn't make sense to be putting that into a Kontakt player. So another difference.
I really appreciate what you said, Sam, about that this is not meant to be a Kontakt replacement. And I just want to reiterate that as not being our intention, and also to dovetail that into what our hopes for the future of Musio are with future content and possible partnerships with third parties, anything like that. Like, I think that would be fun to share. So MP, anything that you might want to speak on with that?
Yeah, the idea. So did that question come up? Yeah, the idea of bringing other developers on board is definitely something we're considering later down the road. Right now, we've recorded a ton of stuff, which is something we can definitely talk about now. We have the Fox Brass that we've recorded at the 20th Century Fox scoring stage. We have CineStrings Pro. It's a whole new string library that we recorded at Sony, which I think is our final, maybe our final. No, it's not. Sam, there's always something to record at the MGM scoring stage.
Yeah.
And then we have a ton of stuff from we have the Vintage Synth Museum. So like all these iconic synthesizers and stuff we recorded up in Seattle, big drums, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff is on a hard drive in Pro Tools, and we have to get it out of there and put it into Musio. So we have a lot of work to do to first put it into Musio. So this is how it works. Everything we create, the workflow, and Sam could correct me if I screw this up. Everything goes to Musio first, because we have to chop it and edit it and all that stuff. It goes to Musio. And then if people really like the instrument, we can create a Kontakt version of that instrument, because that's always the extra thing that takes a little bit longer. We have to create the interface. We have to create the scripting. We got to do all this stuff. So everything will generally go to Musio first, just because of the ease of development. So
yeah, and just to highlight that, there will be a handful of instruments that are Kontakt based, just because you do need a GUI. We do want to have more control over certain aspects of an instrument, like if we want to have a sequencer or some other things that are kind of outside of the Musio ethos of getting you a very good, clean, simple instrument that's very performable, that's very playable, that's professional. That's one of the things I know Shane's working real hard at, is making sure all of our products getting into Musio are at a very high professional level. We have a massive QA process that Santiago's in charge of, that ensures, let's make sure that we can get through, any of our new products coming through will be run through a very specific QA process. And so, but we also have an amazing feedback system that, Steve is monitoring all the time. And so if there's an instrument you really like in Musio that is exclusive to Musio, let us know if you want to see this as a Kontakt version as well. And, we can get that onto a Kontakt roadmap. We do have some things that are already planned for Kontakt that, just makes sense for us to use in Kontakt as well, that we will be developing. But the more feedback you give us, the better Musio will get. And give us instrument ideas. I mean, if you want to hear a Trongo or a Vuvuzela, we could do a Vuvuzela. We could do it like in that morning and then, put it in the evening. It'd be great, anyways, so.
There's a
Shane,
right
Shane,
there.
Okay, so there's two questions that just popped up that I thought related to this. One of them was from Robert. Do you think you'll ever have Musio exclusive instruments? So talking about this specific thing, we actually currently have Musio exclusive instruments. The Village drums, the Sunset drums, the Village mallets, xylophone, glockenspiel, vibraphone, those kinds of things. The synthesizer, the OBXA, is in there. So we have a ton of stuff that's in Musio right now that's not in Kontakt yet, and we don't really have specific plans to put those things into Kontakt. Again, because they're very small instruments, and going through the whole pipeline of encoding and purchasing serials doesn't really make sense for something that wouldn't sell at a level to make it financially viable. However, if the community comes up and says, hey, like, we love the vintage mallets, can you please record some more mallets and get that into a Kontakt instrument? We're all game for that. So we want this to be very community feedback based, for sure.
I think that's great that you touched on that, Shane. And also, I would love to hear from you why we're having Musio and Cinesamples run parallel instead of mushing them together and completely changing the face, like what to expect from the future of Cinesamples and Musio side by side.
That's a great question. So from a marketing standpoint, it's good to have the two business models kind of side by side, because we have a lot of people who've been with us for a lot of years on the Cinesample side, and we don't just want to not break that, but we really value that. We value the way that you've all participated in our community, purchased our products, talked about them, and all that stuff. So we want to keep that channel, and we want to develop very specific instruments for that group of people. I think we're the orchestral people in LA that captures the LA studio sound, that sound of Hollywood. That's what Cinesamples does. And to maintain that in the workflow that customer base is used to, namely Kontakt with certain options like multiple mic positions and things like that, it's good to keep that as its own. We're not going to try to trick you into going into this new business and totally ripping the rug out from under you. At the same time, Musio is our avenue to quickly and professionally get content to you that we would never be able to put on the Kontakt platform. It's also at a pay structure and at a price point that invites a lot of new people that, not just because we want more business, but new people because we have friends and we are the people who are in school right now. You know, we have people in our company who are going to school. We have friends and family members who are composers who are trying to work out, and they don't have $6,000 to drop on, you know, a set of Cinesamples libraries to get their composer template started up. So Musio provides us with a lot of benefits, being able to quickly get you content and access to so many people, and also just caring for where we see the industry going. You know, it's not just major, you know, big budget composers anymore. We all have friends who over the last couple of years in their bedrooms started writing music for Netflix and Hulu and the Discovery Channel and Disney Plus and all this different stuff. And they need tools to sketch, and they need tools to get that end product across the line when, you know, they don't have either access to studios or the affordability. So that's kind of the two split thing. Does that answer the question?
Absolutely. And I want to bring Michael Hobie into this as far as the educational side of things go. How does Musio influence the educational industry and music industry in that sense?
Hey, Michael Hobie, business development for it. I hope you can hear me. I got a AC unit back here, but we believe education, it's incredibly important. You know, you want to have tools and people coming out of school to just be better at the whole process and have access to more things. So there's a huge focus of giving Musio to schools all around the world and allowing these tools to be used by everybody. There are lots of cool features that Musio has that are much more unique for educational platforms, the ability to share templates and quickly collaborate within a classroom and collaborate with students and stuff like that. But this allows for a much wider world of instruments to be allowed at a much cheaper price point than is traditionally available with pretty much anything that I've seen out there right now. This should really help the next generation of composers and artists have access to tools that hadn't existed before.
Thanks for that, Hobie. So I want to talk a little bit about what users can expect with
Hey, Maddie, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Matt,
Yeah,
I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt, but there is a question here that I think we should touch on before we move on from that subject of pricing and subscriptions. So Sadika says in the 3D world, there are different purchase options besides subscription. You are absolutely right. 100% right. There are so many different avenues and options. We are considering them all. Nothing is off the table. A subscription service was the one that we felt was best right now for the kind of content, the kind of platform, and the kind of users that we expect. But I know other companies are doing kind of like rent to own formats and all this different stuff. And just so you guys know, that is a part of our conversation. We're trying to get people access and support a community that we are deeply connected to and love. So please, I know we've been very corporate and haven't seen our faces a lot in our our socials in the past and all these different things. But one of the things that we talk about internally a lot, especially when we get some, I won't want to call it negative feedback, but some honest feedback about, well, why haven't you considered these options and what are you doing? We are considering those options, and we are thinking about you guys specifically and us I want to be able to afford these instruments. I want to be able to have family members and friends of mine and push them into those places where they don't have to worry about, having to follow some corporate lead line to making someone else more money. So just FYI, we are considering those things. We hear all of your feedback. Just be loud about it. And we take that stuff really, really seriously.
Thanks, Shane. Jonathan, I love your question about bringing up Orchestral Tools' approach to their a la carte instrument process. And again, I think just as Shane mentioned too, we are absolutely considering all the options of how, now that Musio is out, how we can continue to evolve and morph to the needs of the community. And I think we can assure you that there's going to be tons of exciting new ways that we do that. And if anybody wants to take that further, please be my guest. But we do have a few other great questions here that I'd love to answer. And specifically going into actual content of what's in Musio, talking about the lightweight nature of it and how that compares to Kontakt, and also there's a great question here that I want to be specific about. Let's see. I'm sorry if I don't give you credit, question asker. Somebody asked, will you be adding more articulations for the solo horns and trumpet, and what is industry brass? What does that sound like? So can we talk on more on that and what they can expect?
Ooh, industry brass. Yeah.
Are you asking
about industry brass?
Let's throw that to Santiago.
All right. The initial release.
First, Santiago, who are you? What do you do?
Oh yeah, I'm Santiago. I'm a senior product developer. So I'm in charge of getting all of the content into Musio. Industry brass, Fox Brass is a product that we've been working very hard on, and we have a set of instruments that's already pretty much ready for release. We're tweaking some last stuff and making sure that it's exactly what we want it to be. And we have more articulations for the first batch of instruments that's going out, and we also have more extended instruments, extended ranges for all the doubling instruments, and we're going to be rolling all that material out as we're ready for it. And that's the beauty of Musio, that we can start getting instruments ready and just publish smaller batches of instruments of useful stuff, and we don't have to wait to have a whole collection ready to release in order for you to be able to use it. So that's kind of the idea here with Industry Brass.
Can we get a list of stuff that's currently going to be available and then some of the extended stuff, Santi?
Yeah, absolutely. So the initial batch is going to include a 3-trumpet patch, 3 trombones, solo tuba, a 6-horn patch, and ensemble patches. All of those are going to include legato, sustain, multiple different shorts, and the ensemble patches. We're going to have chords patches and all sorts of useful stuff for writing that actually can get you started with a piece without having to do a lot of programming.
Yeah. And then what about the extended instruments? What do we got on deck?
Ooh, good question. I am pretty sure we have the euphoniums, Wagner tubas, we have the piccolo trumpets. What else do we have?
Chimbassos, I believe. And I think that's it, but we have a ton of different effects and really fun lightsabery brass sounds
and mutes.
And mutes. We got mutes in the mix.
And we should also say that the ensemble brass is not a conglomeration of individual separate patches. We spent the money to have all the brass players in the room playing. And so you get a really natural acoustic of what it sounds like with all the brass players in the room. And I think that's a really big, important thing that I don't know if we've really done a whole lot of before.
Yeah, it's great.
Absolutely. Well, we're about at the. Oh. Yeah, go for it.
Hi, man. Well, I was going to say, and when we had a few minutes, we actually recorded the 20th Century Fox fanfare in there, and it was the coolest thing because it sounds exactly like it. And there's like a lot of stuff that's been recorded in that room. Family Guy, ton of TV shows. It's got a unique sound that's, I think, starkly different from the MGM scoring stage, which has a more of a darker, rounder sound, and Fox stage is kind of a brighter, in your face, almost more let's say American, or just kind of jazz oriented.
I think the way I would describe it is that the MGM scoring stage is very open. It has a lot of air to it, and it's warm and round in its openness. But when we recorded at Fox, one of the things we realized right when it came in was just how aggressive and present the sound of the room is. It's right there in your face. It's very, very modern and articulate. And what we did in the studio, so when we were actually recording there, we just kept on pushing the instrument, the performers, to like that third velocity, like that fifth, like just get it all the way up there. Get really grindy, get really in your face, kind of nasty with the really brassy grindiness of it. And man, it comes through on the samples. They're very complementary libraries. So Cinebrass is not like a better version. You know, they're just really, really great, unique rooms and sounds, and they'll be used for different things. You know, different colors for sure.
Yeah, and we do expect to expand on Industry Brass too. I mean, we recorded many days there to try to get the stuff in, but you know, we'll hopefully do solos. We'll do other brass combinations coming up. But back to the Sony brass stuff, we have talked about it. We have not actually done it yet, but we have talked about possibly doing some other stuff, expanding on the original. The solo content and some other things at Sony. So Sony's not a done deal, but with CineStrings Pro, that's kind of wrapping up the orchestral component of Sony, so that way you have a full set. And I don't know if we want to talk about that yet.
Well, I think people want to know, when can people like hear this thing instead of us talking about it? Like, when can they hear it? When can they play around with it in Musio?
Well, I would say soon. So, soon is a good word to use, because I don't want to hold us down to a date.
Yeah, we get in trouble when we said date.
Yeah. So a couple things I'll address with dates and soon. But for Industry Brass, we have things playing in Musio right now, and they're sounding fantastic. We're just dialing in all the curves and all the different nuances that make it a real life instrument for you. So I think we're weeks out on Industry Brass. Then I can say that with confidence. We're within weeks. For the whole extended set of all the instruments, getting into Musio and getting into Kontakt, that's a different date. Again, going through that Native Instruments pipeline has a lot more involved in it. So, but you'll be able to hear them and play them good. And then we'll be doing more promo stuff now that we have these things. We're writing demos right now. You'll be able to hear it very, very soon. Very, very soon. I'm thinking Summerlin might be able to answer this a bit better, but you'll be able to hear Industry Brass within weeks. And we can do another one of these powwows and actually get some system audio in here and play it. That would be a really cool thing to do for Industry Brass when we drop it in Musio. Go ahead. Yeah. Do you want to talk about CineStrings Pro? Okay, so CineStrings Pro, we have it recorded. It is on our hard drives. We recorded it at a very, very, very high fidelity rate, which means we have to spend a lot of hours and a lot of time transferring content down to. It is on our. Sorry, I just heard an echo. Yeah, so it's very, very close to being processed. Within a couple of weeks, my team will have it in our hands, and we will be chopping those samples and getting it ready. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't put it in Musio first, just because once the samples are done chopping, we can get it in there very quickly. But that will be a Kontakt instrument fully as well. And now that we have a new website in the works that's going to be revealed pretty soon here as well, we are going to have bundle completion and things like that, stuff that you guys have been begging for and asking for years at this point. We're just trying to wrap all of this stuff up together, and there's a lot of moving parts. Web developers and transferring and production teams and just nonsense. So we're working really hard at it.
We're a 14-year-old startup.
Yeah.
But
So
I want to hear from
with-
Santiago. Oh, sorry. I'm curious. What are the articulations in CineStrings Pro? What did we record? What is the general kind of stuff?
That's for me, Mike.
Yeah.
We have legatos for all the individual sections. We were very involved in trying to get like a real appassionata vibrato, like very expressive vibrato. That was like the main thing for all the individual sections. But also we got the whole string orchestra together and we recorded a bunch of real ensemble patches. And I think that's where CineStrings Pro will really shine, because again, it's not supposed to be better or replace CineStrings Core. It's supposed to be an addition to it, and you already have all the individual articulations for all the sections on the core set. So the CineStrings Pro will really give you that extra amount of material that you need.
And mutes. We did real mutes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Recorded
real
mutes.
Verdinos.
Not fake mutes. Right.
So with that said, I think that's a really great dovetail into now that we're a little bit past the halfway point here. I do want to talk a lot about some of the Cinesamples product updates. And Kirsten, I would love to hear from you about NKS updates, what that process has been like for you, and just if we can shed light on what we're excited about with all of just refreshing our catalog with Cinesamples, especially for those of you Cinesamples product users. And Paul, I see your question too, just with what does this mean for those that have invested a ton in the past years in the Cinesamples libraries? We care deeply, we value so much your loyalty to who we've been as a company, as Cinesamples, and want to keep you around for seeing how we continue to evolve in the industry. So Kirsten, can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so so I'm Kirsten. I am a product developer, and whilst I was like originally hired in maybe 7 months ago to start chopping up samples, I've actually been working on the scripting for these NKS updates since then. So we've been working on, I want to say 10, 12 libraries. I'm not really sure. Yeah, but for months basically, trying to just work out all of the things that we've noticed over the last, however long since they've been released, these products, just thinking, oh, we wish we'd done this, or we wish we changed this, or we wish this would just be a little bit better. And we actually just went back and I worked with Shane very closely to just go through all of those little things in the code and basically just work out how we can make these instruments even better than they were before. And we're kind of taking that a step further now. I'm not sure what I can say, if I can say what I was working on today. I can. Okay, I can. Cool. Good. Well, I mean, as I'm looking at my other screen here, I'm looking at Drums of War 3, which is very exciting. And I mean, it looks cool. I'm going to say it looks very cool. Not that I can show it, but it looks great. And but the reason why we're able to do that is because we've gone through Drums of War 1 and Drums of War 2, and we've really like firmed up what we want these libraries to be. And actually something that I didn't know before I started working at Cinesamples is that like deep percussion beds and Drums of War are completely intertwined, and the products go together seamlessly because one is a loop library, deep percussion beds, and then you have Drums of War, which is the regular percussion library. And finding out those types of things help us make the entire catalog just so much more together. And now that we've kind of got everything to a level where we're like, okay, we're happy with this, we can now move on and make these new libraries like Drums of War 3 and Industry Brass. And because once Drums of War 3, the scripting for that's done, then I'll be moving on to Industry Brass. So things are moving, things are happening. It's very exciting.
Can I tack on to the end of that about updates? So I've noticed some questions about, okay, so I'm a person who spent thousands of dollars at Cinesamples, and now it seems like I didn't need to do that because Musio is coming out. So let me assuage any kind of problem there at all. That is not the case. The value that you're getting in a Kontakt instrument is very different from the Musio instrument. Specifically with our orchestral libraries, let's talk about CineStrings 2.0. I know a lot of you are asking when that update is coming. I know we announced it back in like November or something like that, or December, and we're working on it. So full visibility. We just finished copying all of the final sample sets into our NKIs. We are getting that to our scripter to do all the latest tweaks. We're setting our new curves, addressing all of the problems that we've heard from you over the years. Steve and his team do a phenomenal job of actually listening and trying to, light a fire under my team to make sure that we're actually fixing the stuff that you guys are complaining about. And they're good complaints. That's great feedback. And we hear all of this stuff. So for somebody who spent thousands of dollars with Cinesamples, you are still getting a GUI that has things like the hairpin creator, that has things like the mapping engine in CineStrings and Cinebrass and all that stuff. You're getting all the direct functionality into filters and EQs and IRs that are right there in Kontakt. You're getting a lot more deep control of legato and all of these different things. So those are very much still valuable, and we are updating those libraries, and they will be free updates for any current owners. So for somebody who spent all that money, that's good money that you spent, and we're going to continue to honor that money that you spent. As far as a timeline, I want to give you guys real information without shooting ourselves in the foot here, but that's where we're at. We're about to set the curves so that all the legato and all the cutting issues that we've had in the past are really smooth, so that we're not giving you like the same set of recycled samples. They sound better, they're going to perform better and play better. And we're going to get that to our scripter and have it finished up on that side internally, probably within the month of May. But then the big unknown, which is why we can't really say it's going to be out this date, is because we have to put it through the Native Instruments pipeline. And that is not up to us. Sometimes testing there can go very quickly. Sometimes it can't. Sometimes the testing there reveals mistakes that we've made in our code, and we have to go revisit some of these things. So there's a lot of back and forth there. We're definitely not like holding these products hostage. We want them out to you guys. We want to make money on them, and we want you guys to use them to make beautiful music. We also want to use them to make beautiful music. So that's where stuff like that is at. So I know Music Sculpt, we see all of your comments on VI control and everything. Thank you for asking those questions. We hear you, we're here, and we're doing our very, very best. We're burning the midnight oil to get this stuff out.
Right, and it should also, we gotta give some props to Santiago for all of his work on, we went back to Pro Tools. We got everything out.
Oh, yeah.
We re-chopped, we recut, we chose other samples.
And by we mean Santiago.
Can I talk a little bit about the process, actually?
Please. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like Sam is saying, we went back to Pro Tools. We treated these updates as if it was a brand new library. So we started denoising. We do 2 passes of denoising for everything. The first one to make sure that the room sound, we get like all of the low frequencies out. And that really helps bring the high frequencies and the like air sound from the room out. And like the new samples sound amazing, and you can actually already try them in Musio if you want. And then after that, I painstakingly went through every single articulation of every single instrument and hand denoised like all the like player and room sounds, that there was a lot of like noises on release of like clicks of the bow or whatever, that all of that has been fixed. Like we didn't remove everything because it's part of the sound of the performance, but we got it to a point where it's not going to get in the way of your music. And we did that process for CineStrings Core and for CineWinds Core. And I saw a question about CineStrings Solo over there, and I'm dying to get my hands on that sample set because I really, really, really want to make that library sound 10 times better, because there's a lot of potential there. And we want to go through the same process with like pretty much all of our flagship libraries.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So the 2.0 stuff, I know we announced kind of like, hey, we're doing this, and the first thing is going to be CineStrings Core. That's the big hill to climb, because once we have the script written and ready to go for our legato engine, for all the layout of the whole thing, grabbing that script and applying it to Cinebrass and Cinewinds and Cineperk and all that stuff is going to be a lot smaller of a challenge going forward than it was to just develop it from the ground up for CineStrings. So once we get CineStrings out, you can expect the other libraries to move forward a little bit faster. Also, because of Musio, and this is such a great thing for Musio, it makes a lot of our day-to-day work really valuable and viable. So what we've done while CineStrings is being coded and scripted, we have rehashed and redone the entire Cinewinds library. Someone made a comment here that the legatos for CineStrings in Musio are a little bit slower than the ones in Cinewinds, and Cinewinds are surprisingly agile. If you were a user of Cinesamples products beforehand, agile is not the word that you would use to describe the legatos for Cinewinds. They had some problems. They were a little bumpy. There was some, Cinesamples was one of the pioneers of doing legato in sample libraries anyway, and we've learned a lot since then. So we went back and we recut the entire library, re-denoised the entire library. And I can say, having had hands-on and doing a lot of that myself personally, it is so awesome to hear the end results. And even being with our older libraries in Kontakt and the new stuff in Musio, we cannot wait. We are dying, like Santiago said, to get that new set of samples and functionality into our Kontakt instruments. So those are going to come right on the heels of CineStrings 2.0. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, and I'll say these libraries are 8 years old, and when we put them out, it was like me and 2 other people. So I feel so spoiled with this is an incredibly talented group of people that have done sampling for a very long time, and we've all learned a lot in the last 10 years. And so we're applying a lot of that knowledge to the new stuff and the old stuff.
I'd love to toss the baton over to Steve and hear a bit, since you've been with the team for a long time and you've seen so much of how we've grown and changed. And I want to hear from you with just how you've had your hands on shaping the products to be what our user base needs and wants, and what you're excited for, and just your side of the Cinesamples universe.
Sure thing. Well, thanks, Maddie. Hey, everybody. I'm Steve Goldshine. I lead the customer support team here at Cinesamples. I have been with the company for a little over 6 years now, and it has been absolutely fantastic. And particularly the last year and a half of with the new team coming aboard and all of the new exciting things that we've got going on, it's just been an absolute dream for me to be a part of all of this and to see how it's all going. It's been really fun directly communicating with our customers and hearing directly from you all what it is that you want to hear from our products, what you want to see in the future, what you want to see our products be able to do, what you want to see represented in our catalog. And now that we have this tremendous opportunity before us with Musio, where there's limitless potential for what we can record, what we can create instruments out of in the future, we can finally start getting around to some of these requests that have been coming across my desk for a while, and it's really, really cool. It's been a lot of fun to see how this team, particularly Shane, your design sensibilities have been so user-driven, and the way that you approach things from a standpoint of asking how people want to work and listening when I tell you how people are telling me they want to work, and creating designs for our interfaces and for the product functionality that we're developing, that we're really trying to serve the needs of what our customers are actually telling us they want to be able to do with our products. There are always going to be some requests that are, yeah, I wish that was possible too. But there are always going to be a lot of things that we can do, and that, oh yeah, that's a great idea. We absolutely should do that, and we'll put that on the list. So that's been a lot of fun for me, and now I have a team that I'm working with to keep on top of all of the feedback that we're getting from Musio. One of the cool features that was touched on briefly is there's an in-app feedback reporting system in Musio that our dev team put together that feeds directly to our customer service portal. So you submit an app feedback or an instrument feedback ticket through Musio, and you tell us, hey, the dynamic crossfade on this instrument is a little wonky, and comes through right across our platform, and we say, oh, cool, we can put that on the list for dev team to address, kick it over to Santiago. He says, oh, great, I fixed it. Fix is published. It's a pretty cool thing to be able to address issues and react to questions and feedback and concerns very, very quickly and be very feedback driven. That's something that I think is really a priority for this team and this company, is to be feedback driven. And that's one of the reasons we're doing this right now, is to get information from our community about what you guys would like to see us do.
Excellent. Would anybody else like to chime in on that? Because my computer is frozen right now, and I'm
yeah. I'd actually like a couple things there. We're doing all of this stuff in-house now. We're trying to limit anything that happens outside. We found the value of doing stuff with our team. We have so much control over it. And I'm going to say what you said again, Steve, for the people in the back. We can fix problems with our instruments with so much agility and speed in Musio. That's another big reason why we love that platform. Right before we launched, it was a really interesting thing. Our lead developer, Harrison, he said, hey, just want to make sure that all of the instruments are just kind of given a one more once over, even after all the testing. And our whole team jumped on for like an hour. It was like 20 of us just in one big chat. We all kind of like split up instruments. We were all testing them. And there was a couple, as you would imagine, there's a couple of problems. Oh, this key is this doing this or whatever. And within 2 hours, we had 8 probably mid-level issues with our instruments fixed, republished, and updated on the platform. That's impossible with any other service that we've used thus far. I mean, Kontakt is such an amazing, powerful tool, but you have to go through the whole process to get those fixes, which honestly is frustrating for us just on the side that we want to get those fixes to you, but we have to re-encode things, remake installers, get everything through up on a native access and all that stuff, which makes sense. They're protecting a product, and it's really good that they're doing that. But this just gives us a little bit more flexibility to get those fixes and dial it in really fast. So that is huge for me. And the other side of that, doing things in-house, is like Maddie and Santiago and myself, we designed the graphics for Musio, and we designed that whole app. We designed the graphics for every single individual instrument to try to, show you and inspire you how this thing can be used and present it well. Kirsten in-house is doing all of our NKS updates. She's scripting our new instruments. She'll be scripting Drums of War 3 and Industry Brass and all these different things. And that level of control, where you're not having to make compromises and you're not having to cut corners, really positions us well and gives us some control over the quality that you guys receive on the other side of it. So to underline everything I just said, that's why we need you to be vocal about everything with our libraries, your experiences with them, your hopes, your dreams, your wishes, because now we're not the middlemen trying to get other people out of house to do that. We can take that feedback immediately and personally and make a change. So.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I'm like, and be vocal on VI Control or wherever people post stuff, but sometimes we don't read this stuff. So let us know, make sure we know so we can actually do it. We're here.
Yeah.
And this is not the first and only time that we're going to be doing this. This is a huge thing that's been in discussion for a long time as we've grown as a team, which is we want to be connected to all of you in the community. We want to have that be an open space where we can dream together and talk about it. And so this is the first of many. And I think what I would really love to do in the future too is to talk in specifics, have specific meetings about very dialed in things that those of you can tune into, and that we can have time to talk about even the back end, the development, the engineering. Toby, we have a few minutes, but I'd love to hear from you just about as a software developer and being a huge key part of what Musio is.
Yeah, and there's been some good technical questions here too that we should bother Toby with.
Are there some out there that you'd love to?
Well, this last one by Jim Hale that I just saw here, and this is a good question. It's come up a few times. Is anyone able to address my VE Pro question? a VEP question at the beginning of the chat, or am I? Oh, okay. He's basically saying I can't use Musio in Vienna Ensemble Pro. Why not?
Unfortunately, neither can we.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't support BSD3s, and Steinberg's not giving out BSD2 licenses. So we're a bit of a situation where we're between a rock and a hard place. Hopefully, Vienna updates
And
their.
Toby, could you introduce yourself real quick?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm Toby. I'm a software developer working on the actual Musio app itself. So yeah, all the development we do is actually in-house. We develop this, and we also dog food it, so we're all using this too. Half of us are writing music and we're using this. So some of the things that you have all pointed out that are the obvious features, like multi-outs, things like that, they're gonna come. It's just it's a matter of time. So I'm not sure if we've talked about exactly what it's going to look like yet, but there is going to be some type of formal channel of communication in terms of feature additions and bug fixes and things like that to Musio itself. So what you're seeing now with Musio is not how it's going to be forever with new content. The app itself is also going to evolve. There's going to be new features. There's going to be bug fixes, performance improvements, all that kind of stuff. And you'll be able to see what we're prioritizing before it even is available to you. So we want to be transparent about that. But yeah, if there's any other technical questions, I'm happy to.
What are your like top 3 features that you guys are excited about and working on right now that you want to add?
And Helena, I'd love to hear from you on that as well, if you could answer that after Toby too.
Multi-outs, I think, is definitely one of them. Every feature just opens up such a whole world of a design discussion, because it's nothing, unfortunately, is as easy as just adding a new feature, because as soon as you add something, there's so many considerations you have to make. But we've experimented with mic positions. We've talked about design for articulations. So some of the things that you might be more used to seeing on a more professional version of an instrument, like in the Kontakt with all the knobs and things, some of those we realize are useful, not just to professionals but beginners as well. So some of those types of things I think we're excited to bring into Musio as well. So
what about AAX support?
Oh yeah, that's on the docket.
Yes.
That's real close. Can't give us exact date, but we are on testing of it right now. There's a little bit of communication and back and forth we have to do with Apple, but it's coming very soon.
I have a
Helene,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm doing this a little bit backwards, where we're starting to introduce the whole team at the end of this chat, but I want to make sure everybody has the chance to tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and what you are excited about. So Helena, you and Toby and Harrison have been working really closely together, and I'd love to hear what it is that you do and what features you also are excited about.
Yeah, hello everyone, I'm Helena. So I've been working mostly on the user-facing side, and what I'm excited about that will come up eventually is just making the user portal more streamlined. For example, we're working on letting you guys be able to see your billing history, just like small things like that. So yeah, I'd also love to hear what you guys would like to see on that end of things.
Like on the user portal and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that on that front that we've been talking about maybe getting is a more dynamic sort of view of the content that's actually in Musio right there, so you don't have to open up the app or start a trial to see what's available if you're curious about using it. So might see something like that soon as well.
I mean, again, it just goes back to we are all open ears, and we're so excited as this continues to grow and gain more visibility to hear back from all of you. And we want you to have fun with it and to play with it and see what works and see what could be better. And that's what we're all about, is getting that to a point where you're happy and excited to use it.
We'd also love to hear it too. We would love to hear you guys using it. We've already seen some great YouTube videos that's come through our channels, and the whole thing with us here at Cinesamples is we want to empower you to be creative, and that's kind of everything we do goes through that lens. Everything that we make, everything that we talk about is about empowering you to be creative. And, we want to give you the tools to be able to do so. But in return, we'd really like to hear you be creative back. We're always excited to hear what you guys are working on, and so I just want to open that up to the community. We're always loving. I know Steve posts very regularly in our Slack channels, people sending in us stuff, and we're just always blown away by the talent of this community.
I think that's a great segue into Summerlin. I want to just touch on what you do as marketing manager and how you want to direct just the visibility on social media and all of the things that we're implementing with those key values, how you're taking that and turning that into just vision and stuff that you're excited about. So can you touch on that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. I'm Summerlin. I'm a marketing coordinator. And, Shane kind of touched on this, but one thing we really want to move towards is kind of stepping away from that more distant corporate, if you will, vibe. And we really just want to communicate with you guys, hear your work, hear your concerns, and just be a little bit more visible. And we're really excited about a lot of the new stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff that I've planned that you guys are going to start getting glimpses of all the new releases. And we just really want to kind of open up this whole conversation and don't feel like we are a far off distant entity or something. We are people, and we want to get to know you guys. And we're really excited and trying to move in that direction a little bit. So
amazing. Great. Well, we're about at the hour mark. If any of you guys have any more questions that you'd like to, please drop in the chat below right now. And
there's no time limit. We can spend some time answering questions. If people have meetings internally, you can go ahead and work. But I think this is important to talk this way and stuff. So let's just do some rapid fire answering of questions of the chat. You want to do that?
All right, Pegasus 200. Are you planning to add more mic positions in the future?
Sam or Toby?
Sam or Toby?
Sam.
Yes, if we have enough people asking for multiple microphone positions, we're definitely going to add it. We have to think about design, we have to think about implementation, we have to think about giving you that much more content for you to download. Right now, we want it streamlined, we want it quick for you to be able to just grab an instrument and have it as fast to use as possible. But if we multiply that by 5 or 6 microphones, that might be a problem. So we have a lot of design work that we have to do to be able to do that. But we want to hear from you. If you're thinking, hey, I would love to have more microphone positions, guess what? I would also like to have multiple microphone positions. It's very important to my template that I have it. But
so this is an internal argument.
It is an internal argument.
Let's do it.
This is all we yell about. Because we actually did have a patch internally that Toby created that was a multi-microphone patch, and it works. Like Musio can do it today. It's just a question of, is that what we want to do? Is that a rabbit hole we want to go down? Because the concept that, on the website, it says search, load, play. And we don't want it to be search, load, ... play, right? You want it to be very streamlined. So having one microphone position makes it easier. So maybe I've heard people say, well, what if it's just an instrument that is one microphone mix, right? And then you have another one that's another microphone mix that's more roomy or something.
There's a lot of
there's a million ways to do this. It's just like, we don't know. You guys know. You're the customer. You're the user. So
we've also played around with middle ground ideas. Like, instead of having like all 6 mic positions that we recorded for something, I mean, those are distilled. We usually record dozens of mic positions. But if instead of that, what if we just had like a close, far, farthest, and had a compromise from Musio where you could get some flexibility, but not maybe have the exact fidelity that you would have in a Kontakt instrument, where people are expecting to sit there and download 60 gigs, for an orchestral library or something. So internal conversation for sure. Internal argument, probably more accurate. Who will win? You guys decide. To tell us. The loudest voices will probably get what they want.
We've had a few great questions about Voxos. Plans to update it, add more phrasing capabilities, and just flexibility overall with that library.
I'll take that one.
Go Sam.
Okay, so I did the original Voxos 2.0 update where we went up to Seattle, recorded a top velocity layer. We recorded some solos. We did a bunch of work on that library. And then I went in and re-chopped, rebuilt, re-denoised, retuned, did the whole shebang to get it up to what I felt was, as good as we could for this library. It's a great library. It's a fantastic library. It's still very widely used all over the place. If there's things you want to see with it, write into Steve. But chances are we're just going to do new vocal libraries. We would love to do that, but if there's opportunities here for us to be able to tackle some problems in Voxos, I'm more than all ears to hear that. But for us to go do new content for Voxos, it may be worth. It's really, really hard to go into a space, try to find similar musicians to get the same sound. I mean, I can't tell you how hard it was to get that top velocity layer to match the bottom velocity layers that were recorded many years prior to that. Technology changes, microphone changes, personnel changes. Like, it's really hard to add to that. So, I don't know what the future has in store for Voxos 2.5 or Voxos 3.0. We'd love to hear from you on that. But I would, at this point, would love to spend more time making new vocal libraries. And I can tell you, we have some plans in the works for some new vocal content. Maddie's secretly working on stuff. We're not going to mention anything yet because this is still very much... No,
but we're excited.
We're very excited about it. Both, for you to know, both Maddie and I are vocalists, and so we would love to see some more vocal libraries for Cinesamples.
Yes.
And I love Voxos. I spent a lot of time on it, and I hope the version 2 was better than version 1 for most of you. But we do have some vocal patches in Musio. We made a select number of patches that we put in there. Full Voxos may not ever work in Musio just because of the nature of that. There's a great example of something that works really well in Kontakt, but would be next to impossible to get into the Musio platform with all the articulation switching for all the vowels and consonants and stuff. So anyway.
What I can say about future vocal library musings and wonderments and hopes and dreams is I think we've had a lot of internal discussion about how we've seen the just scoring industry change into this. There's been a lot of small chamber groups that have been doing a lot of the scoring. And of course, you'll always have your MCU, epic, cinematic, amazing films that do that so well. But there's been a lot of that direction of smaller production crews, smaller just pieces of music being put together for films and media. And what we're hoping for with making a new vocal library is something that complements what we already have with Voxos and Men of the North and all of these that can definitely aid the more epic side of cinematic scoring. And that's what I'm really excited about, is creating potentially a vocal library that goes more in the direction of intimate, small chamber, maybe early music kinds of vibes and quality, and could be really cool for layering and even solo stuff. So yeah, I'm excited. What other questions have we got rolling in here? Jermaine, you said which library will be the first to have muted strings?
CineStrings Pro.
CineStrings Pro, baby. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Speaking of that more quiet and delicate kind of sound that you were just mentioning, Maddie, our latest release, Collision Impact Designer, is not that at all. We haven't even talked about it at all yet on this call. But that's a really fun library. I don't know if anyone on the stream has had a chance to check out Collision Impact Designer yet, but if you haven't, you can check out the demos and Shane's awesome walkthrough video for that library. That was a lot of fun.
Well, and Shane has some exciting news for Musio users.
I do. Last night, I burned the midnight oil, and at 2 a.m., I finished recording all of the impacts from the library that are, all the mixed, huge single push button impacts that are our presets for Collision are now going to be in Musio very, very soon. So, this is a great example of that Kontakt Musio. Which one do I want? For me, I'm like a tweaker without the drugs. Like, give me all the percussion samples and let me process all the little things and give it to me. And I need Kontakt to do that with all the layering and all the scripting capabilities. Our CEO and inarguably the better composer, Mike Patty, is going to be like, let me push the button and just get the good sound. So he's excited for the Musio version of this library because he's like, I just want the big hit. So we're going to get those big hits. And I think it goes to show that people who are designing and getting more into the weeds of this stuff and really trying to craft something, and then people who are trying to write a trailer score and just need an option, and need a great sounding sample really fast. There's value in both. And honestly, for me, in my layout, I would have the Kontakt version and the Musio version open for different projects. But yeah, so for some of the questions that have been coming up here with, is the whole entire, Cinesamples library going to be ported over into Musio and all of that confusion and stuff? We're going to take it in stride. Yes, I think the goal is to get all of that content over, but where it doesn't make sense in such a multi-layered instrument like a Collision or like a Soundscapes or like a Voxos, we're going to do our very best to have the Musio version of those libraries. And I think because we use both, they're going to be pretty streamlined for the people that Musio works for the best, and vice versa in Kontakt.
And I want to highlight, so stuff that is a true port, like CineStrings, CineWinds, all that kind of stuff, we're not skimping on sample sets other than the microphone positions. It's the same round robin count, same velocity count, same legatos. Like, there's no reason for us to skimp on that. We still want to give you the full value of what we recorded and what we presented in Kontakt should be available for you in Musio. We just have some interface limitations largely because we want to keep it streamlined. And that's largely what we have to think about when we're looking at our ports. But yeah, to Shane's point, it is our desire that we get as much content that we can that makes sense for us to port over into Musio.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if there are any other notes anybody would.
There is one that I've seen come up a couple of times, and maybe Toby can address this.
Yeah.
About, kind of the older versions of Mac, like 10.13. And to be honest, there are plenty of us here in this room that we still have machines with 10.13 on. But I think Toby would be best to address that.
Yeah, 10.14 is the earliest supported Mac version. We're aware of that. I don't exactly remember what the limiting factor is on 10.13. I'd have to ask Harrison, but I'm sure in time we will fully test that and try to get it working on older operating systems. Linux, to be honest, we just haven't tested it, haven't tried. We're focusing on Mac and Windows right now, but there's no reason why, given enough time, we won't also look at Linux as well. But right now, it's just we haven't tried it.
We will try for 10.13. There are no guarantees, just because it is such an old operating system, and there were a lot of changes that happened between 10.13 and 10.14 that could preclude us from being able to do some back development on. But we will try. There is a need for it. We recognize the need for it. Like I said, there are plenty of people in this room. I have a machine sitting right here that runs 10.13. So yes, we hear you.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions from people that are here? Just get them in right now and we'll do a speed round, because I think wrapping up right now is probably good. I think we've talked about most of it. Yeah.
In a perk version 2 treatment, Shane.
Oh yeah, sorry. We've been answering some of the questions just directly in the chat, but that's a good question. So like I said, the next libraries in the CineSymphony series, the 2.0, that they're going to roll out a little bit faster because a lot of that code is reusable. Cineperk is not really in that pipeline of the same code. So it's going to require a little bit different design because there are different, sections in Cineperk, being a percussion library, not a tonal library. And it's going to require a little bit of a different script. So that is the one that we're going to get to last. Expect to see CineWinds after CineStrings and then CineBrass after that. But Cineperk will get the treatment. Absolutely. Any planned expansions for CineStrings Solo? Jace, your CineBrass Pro question, that is part of the content that we'll get from Cinesamples into Musio eventually. It's just not, we want to provide people with the core set of instruments that they can use to write music right now. And all the extended stuff is going to be a little bit more on the back burner until we have time to get to it. But yes, we have every plan to get CineBrass Pro and all the extended, descant horns, monster low winds, all the different stuff from all those libraries. I don't think we have any planned expansions for CineStrings Solo, but I have personal ideas about expansions for CineStrings Solo. And, like we said, Sony is never off the table. So never. I mean, that's our bread and butter, and we love that room and we love those people. So if you have ideas, Carson composes, if you have any ideas, any solo instruments that you want to hear or different articulations, any extended feature sets, let us know. We're in a great place to start feeling that kind of stuff.
Solo will eventually get the 2.0 update.
Yeah,
that's part of this. Yeah, the whole CineSymphony series is getting the 2.0 update. Yeah. We're starting with the core, then we're going on to the Pro, Solo, Extended.
Thank you, Steve.
And, yes. and with most of these libraries, it's not just a reskin or a slight tweak to the script. We go back to the Pro Tools session. We start from scratch. It takes a long time, but we want to provide that service for you people that have bought it, have invested in it. And also the people who want to experience it for the first time. We want to give you a fresh, modern take on it with all the new tools that we have. I mean, Isotope is one of our primary things, and Isotope back in 2008, 2009 is very different than it is in 2022. Yeah. And we have a lot more abilities to actually go in and clean up the samples in the way that we wanted to.
Yeah, last thing. So Peter Brinkley, what's the word on CineStrings update? We talked about that a lot, but we're going to be posting a version of this video on our YouTube after we're done here. So you can go back, read the comments, read this stuff, but it's coming soon. That's the short of it.
Well, guys, thank you all so much for your questions, your concerns, your feedback, and your celebration of this new chapter for us as a team. We're excited to bring you along in the journey, and this is the first of many. We're ready to keep having consistent conversations with all of you and just have fun with it. So thank you. Have an amazing rest of your Friday. And we appreciate you all spending time watching us in our little cubes talk about cool things. Awesome. All right, guys, take care. Have a good one.
Bye.